Good morning.
Francis is using it.
We're
I don't
doing-
have an extra.
Yeah, you want to use it for today?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine, I got it. So we're going to talk about anxiety, but she's having a little bit of anxiety, so it's relevant. She says that she is paranoid. So I asked the client when this began. Okay, that's a relevant question. You want to find out when this began. She said, she identified that it began when her aunt died. So, write this down. When a client comes with an issue, like she just threw at me, that she has paranoia, or she feels that she's paranoid, you're going to make a hypothesis. We'll get to the anxiety and the purpose of class in a moment. You're going to make a hypothesis. What is a hypothesis?
A guess.
An educated guess, yes. An educated guess. Where are you getting your educated guess from?
From the client stating the words that are coming.
Okay, so first from the client and what she's giving you, the body language,
Right.
whatever incongruencies that they're throwing at you, so the verbals and the nonverbals.
Right.
You're also getting your educated guess from your education.
Right.
From what theory are you working from? Okay?
Oh yeah.
So you work with the theory, so you're using the theory to educate yourself and say, in psychoanalysis sounds like, in addictions counseling this smells like, whatever it is. You're starting to formulate a thought, an idea, a hypothesis. That is what dictates your question. That is what's going to lead to my question. I formulated two hypotheses the minute that she says this about the paranoia. She says her aunt died. Was her aunt like a mother figure, because mothers protect, and she used the words eyes. Eyes watching over. Eyes protect. The protective eye. I don't know if I have one here.
Oh yeah.
This isn't exactly what I'm looking for,
But yeah.
but here's,
I know which one you're.
you know what I'm talking about? El ojo protector, the
Yeah.
evil eye, the
Yeah.
one from the Egyptians. I have one somewhere. I thought I had it here. Okay? So, eye symbolically protects. So I got a hypothesis from you saying eyes are watching. So I got one hypothesis. Did you see where I got that? It was an educated guess. My hunch was a second one because you've shared with us, so this would be an ongoing client. First session, you might have a hunch, but you ask. The other part was the religion. And I said, what happens in your belief system when someone dies? Do you see that I asked two questions that are open-ended questions? I let the client talk. If I say, do you believe that there is a soul and that there is an afterlife, that leads to a yes or no. But instead asking what happens lets the client share her story.
Yeah.
So tell me in your religious or spiritual belief, what happens once your aunt died? And I want you to listen. You weren't here on Tuesday, but we were talking about incongruencies. And you said an incongruency. I heard an incongruency, so now repeat that. Or say it again.
Well, for me and what I grew up believing is
Grew up believing, go ahead.
is once you die, that's it, you die. There's no body and soul, it's one thing. Like you die, that's it. You don't go nowhere, you don't stay nowhere, you're expired. That's it.
Okay.
There's nothing.
What about now? She grew up believing.
Yeah.
Now tell me about the grown-up Nellie. what she believes.
It's not as much as the grow up me, it's more like the only reason why I was able to stay there when it happened was because I kept telling myself, that's not her.
What do you mean by we're able to stay there? Stay where?
In the hospital room where she was.
This was after she passed?
The moment she passed, we were all there.
Okay.
And we had spent months, exactly like 3 months, in a hospital room with her. We never, ever left her side. We never left her alone.
Okay.
Never.
I
And
need
the
to
moment
be,
we did, she passed away.
I need to be a moment insensitive because it's a learning opportunity. The moment that she starts to cry, I lower my voice and I go into an empathic stance. We talked about motivational interviewing on Tuesday. The first stage is empathy, embracing empathy. I lower my voice and I'm like, tell me. And I create a safe space for the client. That is what you do when the client starts to demonstrate emotion. That's the empathy. Let them have the room. Let them have the space. You're just there to listen. And I am so, so sorry. I did not realize that it was a 3-month battle that she had, a day-to-day struggle that you guys were there. Now you just said something. The moment we didn't go is when we lost her. That was a summary. I summarized, I paraphrased. Those weren't her exact words, but exactly what we talked about. Give back the client what they said. So what do you mean by that?
Well, when she was in agony, her daughter called my mom and said, I can't take this anymore. She's in pain. But the doctor's saying that she's not in pain because she's unconscious. Because the medicine was so high that there was no way that she could feel pain. But you could still hear her, agony the whole night. She spent like 2 nights just, because she couldn't really breathe, and they had to clean the throat and put the tube through her nose. So I saw that. I was there because we didn't want to leave her side because she didn't want us to leave.
Okay, but did someone at one point leave?
We did, because it was so many of us that the doctors told us she needs to rest. And sometimes the only way they rest is when they're alone.
Okay. Is it your belief that upon your family and your leaving that she passed?
She passed away at 5 o'clock in the morning.
But alone?
But
Is it your belief that no one was watching her and that's why she left?
that's what we all believe.
Okay. Listen to the correlation about watching. I used that word on purpose. Did she leave when no one was watching?
Yeah, the eyes closed.
Eyes watch. I'm making right now in my mind another hypothesis. I haven't figured out just yet how to form the question. But bitch, you didn't watch over me when I was here and I died. Now I'm gonna haunt your ass. This is not Francis being, Francis. But I am, in my mind, formulating a hypothesis that could be the client's perception, erroneous perception. I need you to write this down. All of our clients, all of our own thoughts, they're erroneous, people. Erroneous perceptions of what was, of what is. Erroneous. It is not true. What we think is a lie.
Our head fucks with us
Yes.
a lot.
Every single
lot.
thought is a fucking mind fuck.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
This is the link to anxiety.
Mhm.
Anxiety is just a constant recurrence of thought, of thought, of thought, of thought, of thought, of thought. It doesn't stop. And then it leads to this emotion, and then it leads to a dysfunctional behavior. oftentimes drinking or smoking or gambling or sex or whatnot. In your case, the paranoia. But you are in anxiety. You are having anxiety. And it is stemming from this. It is not a coincidence that the client chose the word eyes are watching. So I used that. Did you see how I used that? Hi. And pulled it back in for her to link it. Now, I have a hypothesis. Oh, you left me alone in this hospital bed. The hypothesis being, now I'm watching over you. This is going to be the exact ambiguity. She still hasn't answered our question here, but we know that there's a part 2. The exact ambiguity of what happens at death. If she admits to herself that her aunt is watching her, she violates her belief system from childhood. And we don't want to do that. But you are feeling, and mind you, I am using different things because you're a student and I need to use it as a teaching opportunity. It's not exactly how I would go about in counseling. Okay, it's a little too belligerent. But let's talk about the ambiguity that you have. And please watch Tuesday's session class, because we talk about these terms so that you can have it fit together. What is your belief now as a grown-up? When I asked her that question, she jumped straight to the hospital bed. Answer that. What is your belief now as a grown-up about what happens after death? There's a conflict. She's in cognitive dissonance. Do you see how this is the only place? This is motivational interview. This is perfect. This plotted out, thank you. It worked out perfect. This is perfect because in there's an ambiguity. You can ask the question straight up. Where is the answer? We got A, we got B. And she said, I grew up believing, but now you're a grown-up. Tell me what you believe now.
I like to think that I believe the same. However,
Go ahead.
And the reason why I went back to the hospital bed is because that's the moment that's probably been the only moment in my entire life that I went against what Jehovah taught me throughout my 23 years.
We got the moment, we got the thread. Look, I'm wearing a sweater. It's new, so I won't unravel it. If it was old, I would pull it and demonstrate for you. We pull the thread at that moment. And did anyone notice what she did again?
Against my entire belief of growing up.
Did anyone notice what she did again? I'd like to think, however, the reason I went to the she didn't even finish the sentence. Finish this thought for me. I would like to believe the same thing, however. So at that moment, you went against what Jehovah taught you. What was that thing that you went against? What was the new belief? What was the new belief created? Because this is what you're having a problem with. Your problem is that you have a new belief that violates the actual core value of who you are. This is the core of the core of the core of why we have problems. Because they're violating this. Our buckets, our values. Our parents gave us a bucket of values, people. A waste paper basket full of shit. wrapped up little papers full in our head and saying, this is what you believe, this is what you believe, this is what you have to believe, this is what is, this is what it better be. And the moment that you or me violate that, we are in conflict. But that we talked about on Tuesday is ambiguity, is cognitive dissonance, is the opportunity that as therapists we have to create change. So her entire incongruence is, I should not have my freaking aunt watching over me right now and haunting my ass. She used the word paranoid, I'm just summarizing, because I don't believe in that. But the grown-up Nellis does. So tell us what your new belief is that you're struggling with.
Well, when I'm called into the room and I see her like there, you know, just there.
At this point, she's flatlined.
We were literally next room because they told her, just give her a few minutes alone. We went to the next room and we started talking to each other. I even fall asleep and I wake up to her brother telling me, ladies, she passed. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I was just there. How the fuck is she gonna pass when I wasn't there? And I go into the room and I see her there. And I kept telling myself, because I knew that I couldn't handle it. So I kept telling myself, that's just a body. That's not my heart. It's just flesh. She's somewhere else. She's not here. Which is completely opposite to what I was taught. And I kept telling myself, to be able to handle this, I have to tell myself, that's not her. And then we were all messed up because she left when we left her alone. We left her for like 20 minutes. And that's when she died. And nobody even knew that she died until her brother came into the room. And he said, oh, I guess she's feeling better because she's not in agony anymore. And when he gets closer, he goes, why? She's not in agony because she's not breathing. And that's when he called the doctors, and that's when they you know, declare her death. And
Okay, does everyone see? We plotted this out on the board. She has a belief from childhood, but the only way that she can self-soothe, the only way that she could deal with her aunt being gone is that she believed that she's somewhere else. This is a contradictory belief to what she grew up believing. What does that do to you? Thinking that you are betraying your entire value system, your entire religious upbringing. What does that do to you?
fucks up with my head. I don't sleep. I don't sleep because I have to, and if I'm in my room, I have to be with the light on. And sometimes if I'm fucking paranoid, like fucking movie, and they're like, who's
Yeah.
watching over me? And I'm like that, and it's,
Because if your aunt is somewhere else, then she must be in your room. And you need to keep the light on so you could see her when she shows the fuck up.
the worst part.
I mean, hello?
The worst part is that I honestly feel like me, just for doing that, I have opened the door to not just my aunt, but anybody.
Every single entity. Did you ever see the movie Poltergeist? Oh my gosh. The movie Poltergeist is about this little girl who connects and she sees all these spirits and stuff like that. It's like that. How old was she? She was like 4, right?
Yeah, very young.
I mean, and she's in the sink and she sees noodles that are like snakes and death and blood. You have opened yourself. Because what have you really opened yourself up to?
To a new belief.
A new belief that says that there's evil, that there's another life, that there's other life forms, and of course they're bad. They're bad because you're violating Jehovah. They can't be good, and they can't be angels, and they can't be blessing you. They can't be putting you to sleep with their wings going, niña linda, duérmete. Of course not. You think that it could be an eye that puts her to sleep? Sleep, my love, sleep. No, they're going, "Ah! You bitch! How dare you believe that evil exists and another world exists?" You are having a major existential crisis. You are having a major belief in your value system. Do you see this? This is like coming before our eyes. This is everything put together. Here's her basket of values. She's got one value, which is Jehovah says no afterlife. And she's lived how old? 23 years? 23 years believing that. And lo and behold, her aunt dies. Boom, 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 boom. And her entire value system crumbles. How the hell can you sleep? Your entire value system has crumbled to the ground. Trust me, I know. I'm in this. Every single thing you have built your entire life on has crumbled. This, my friends, anxiety. Of course it's going to produce anxiety. Of course it's going to produce paranoia. Of course it's going to produce excessive worrying. It's going to produce not able to sleep. These are symptoms of deeper issues. The paranoia, the not able to sleep, is not the core issue. The core issue is the fact that she doesn't know what the hell to believe and who the hell she is anymore. And I know enough about her, just from the interaction in this class, that her religious belief is the foundation of her main sweater. Everyone's sweater has one big word on it. Like yours is the whole sex, promiscuity, virgin, Mary thing. That's the story, more or less. With her, it's her mother and laziness and what her mother thinks of her and this and this and that. With you, it's the family and the children and your father and all that family stuff. She's similar to that. She's similar to that, the mother and stuff like that. I'm like her with the religion and the spiritual stuff.
I was like her.
So
too,
we've
but-
got one, right, because it's
Yeah.
all of the mother, but
Yeah.
but your taste,
More is like
her
that.
taste
Yeah.
for the mother, like to use Tanisha's word from Tuesday, is along the sex line.
Yeah.
Hers is along the mother's opinion of her with the laziness. They all have family things. His has to do with the father that he is and the provider and the timeliness. Hers has to do that she has to be overly protective with her kids and her kids can't grow up, especially her son. And she, and on and on and on. I'm not Jehovah's Witness. I grew up in a cult. Same kind of thing. So the flavor, to use Tuesday's word, is what we're looking at. But our t-shirt can only have one word on it, pretty much. At the end of the day, all of the values in the wastebasket are going to link to one key word. This is the thread. This is what my entire model is based on. Those 7 steps take you to this thread over and over and over again. And no matter what you do, if you put it into those steps, you lead to that thread. You take your client to that thread, even if it's breaking a nail. If you break a nail and you're anxious and sad about it, I will, not me, but the process of the model will lead you to the thread of, oh my God, what do I believe? Because your religious beliefs or your belief system, your spirituality or whatever you want to call it, is the crux of your foundation. And that is the story from 0 to 7 that you were given. Hers is very marked. Mine is very marked. Yours is very marked. Yours is very marked. Because you see, the minute she talks about her father, she starts to cry. The minute she talks about her mother and the trauma that she has about her mother, she starts to cry. They're very marked things in us. This morning I was talking to a colleague, and he's like, oh, I was writing some notes about class about anxiety, and he's like, oh, I have anxiety. And I said, okay, what happened 0 to 7? He's like, nothing. No, nothing earth-shattering. Really? Okay, fine, it doesn't have to be earth-shattering. I don't need that your father beat the shit out of you. I don't need that you went to jail. I don't need that someone cut a limb off. I don't need gory details. I just need something. Tell me anything that comes to mind. I threw a rock through a window, he said. What is the metaphor? What is the metaphor? Talk to me about the metaphor of a young kid throwing a rock through a glass window. What is happening there? Think.
For me, rebellion, trying to
Anger.
break away from.
Think of the metaphor in terms of psychoanalysis, of the psyche. You have a glass window. What is it about the glass window that all of a sudden when a rock goes through it,
It shattered.
it shatters?
Yeah.
Something in his life shattered.
Yeah.
Probably someone's opinion of him or his opinion of himself.
Yeah.
He was probably dethroned, he was probably taken off of a pedestal, or, like I said to him, you were no longer the perfect kid. We don't have to go so far, people. Use the client's words. They're speaking from their inner child. They're speaking from their subconscious. She said, she said, watch. All I did was give it back to her using my hypothesis. Your hypothesis comes from your education, which is what you're doing here. You take what they tell you plus what you've studied, you've got it. If you listen. If you listen, they tell you everything. On the spot. We didn't rehearse this. I didn't have questions. Oh my God, hold on, let me see what questions I'm going to ask. I made a hypothesis. I created empathy. I asked open-ended questions. I knew I had to find an ambiguity. There had to be some dissonance there, a belief that she had versus ones that she has now, and I went right in. Do you see that if we do this over and over and over, good morning, that it's not that difficult? It's formulaic in a way, even though your person is different and what they're struggling with is different? You see how it just unfolded? I mean, that was perfect. And she wasn't even here on Tuesday, so she didn't even know. I just stopped and showed you how it works out. But that's anxiety producing for a client. When a client produces anxiety, when they come to you with anxiety, when they're worrying, and we'll talk a little bit about it linked to addiction, but in general, it's because they have something that they're not sure of. They have something that's creating some dissonance. They have something that they have an incongruence about. Find that incongruent belief system and you've got the thread. Today we're going to talk a little bit about anxiety and addiction. Anxiety is a very common behavior or symptom or diagnosis, general anxiety disorder. Anyone ever hear of GAD?
Yeah.
This is in the DSM, and when we do personality disorders, we'll talk about it more. But it's generalized anxiety disorder. And you find this a lot in addicts. You find this a lot in addicts because what they end up doing is they come to you with excessive worry, excessive self-deprecation, excessive wanting to control. There's 4 particular symptoms that I actually wanted to. I am so blind, I cannot even tell you. No, it is like overnight I turned blind. Is that how it works?
Sometimes, yeah.
I mean, from one day to the other. Now I'm like scared to be without my glasses. And I've heard people say, like, they have glasses scattered all over the place. Well, now I feel like, oh my God, I have to get 10 pairs of glasses, because if not, I'm gonna go blind. And
My
it
mother
reminds
does
me of-
that.
What was that?
My mother does that. She has
Well-
glasses all over the house.
Well, that's, the other day, I'm like, where are the glasses? Where are the glasses? And my house is this tiny. I had just moved. I'm like, where did I put them? Where did I put them? And I luckily remembered. And now I'm like, because that's the only pair that I have. And I feel like I have to go out and